Connective tissue in the textbook. Need to go through. The connective tissues are the most abundant and widely distributed tissues. Connective tissues are most abundant and widely distributed tissues in the body of higher animals. They are named connective tissues because their special function of binding and supporting other tissues or organs of the body. They are mesodermal in origin. That is very important for us. They are mesodermal in origin. And connective tissue consists of cells and large extracellular matrix. Connective tissue cells consists of cells. The various cells we are seeing now, like fibroblast cell, mast cell, histiocyte, wandering macrophages, likewise. So, having large number of cells and that extracellular matrix, that means the substance present between the cells, we say extracellular matrix, large amount of extracellular matrix, that they say. It consists of different combinations of fibers. It consists of different combinations of fiber like collagen, elastin, and reticular fibers. That various types of fibers are there. They are collagen, elastin, and reticular fibers. And ground substance. Ground substance means the substance present between the cells or extracellular matrix, or that whatever the substance present between the cells. What do you call them as ground substance? The ground substance include water, polysaccharides, and proteins. Water, polysaccharides, and protein. The fibers provide strength and elasticity and flexibility to the tissue. As we have seen, strength is provided by collagen fiber. Elasticity and flexibility is provided by elastin fiber. Elasticity and flexibility is found by elastin fiber. The connective tissues are classified into three types, namely connective tissue proper, skeletal muscle, and fluid connective tissue. Based on the composition of the matrix and types of cells, we classify the connective tissue as connective tissue proper, skeletal tissue, and fluid connective tissue. Then we learned in the form of chart. Then connective tissue proper. In that, for the first one, we are going with connective tissue proper. The connective tissue proper. Connective tissue proper is of two types: loose connective tissue and dense connective tissue. The first one, the loose connective tissue. The cells and fibers are loosely arranged in a semi-fluid ground substance. In loose connective tissue, it's there in the name, loose connective tissue. The cells and fibers are loosely arranged in a semi-fluid ground substance. There are three types of loose connective tissue: areolar connective tissue, adipose tissue, and reticular tissue. So in that, we are completed the areolar connective tissue and adipose tissue. And let us continue with radicular tissue also. But before that, let me read that how it is given in the textbook. It is one of the areolar tissue. It is one of the most widely distributed connective tissues in the body. So where do you see? It forms a packing tissue in almost all the organs. That means between the kidney and liver and kidney and stomach, and between all internal organs. We say whatever the tissue present, that is nothing but areolar connective tissue, filling all the spaces present between the internal organs. So that's why what do you say that particular tissue as this tissue is considered as packing tissue. In almost all the organs, it forms the packing tissue. Areolar tissue form a subcutaneous layer of the skin. Areolar tissue, below the skin will find areolar tissue. Then it has cells, fibers, and empty spaces called areolae. That empty spaces, areola means empty space. Okay, cells of the areolar tissue are fibroblast, mast cells, macrophages, adipocytes, and plasma cells. Fibroblast, mast cells, macrophages, adipocytes and plasma cells. The fibroblasts are the most common cells which secrete fibers. Fibroblasts are the cells which are most common and they secrete fiber. The inactive cells of the fibroblast in inactive status, they called as fibrocytes. Inactive cells are called fibrocytes. Then mast cell secrete heparin, who is an anticoagulant, histamine, which attract the histiocytes, bradykinin, who is a vasodilator, serotonin, who is a vasoconstrictor. The vasodilators cause inflammation in response to the injury and infection. Vasodilators are going to cause inflammation in response to the injury and infection. Then macrophages. Macrophages are the amoeboid cells which are phagocytic in function. Macrophages are the amoeboid cells which are phagocytic in function and act as that internal scavengers. Macrophages act as internal scavengers. They are derived from monocytes of the blade. Macrophages are derived from monocytes of the blade. The tissue fixed macrophages are called histiocytes. Tissue fixed macrophages are called histiocytes, and the others are wandering macrophages. Others means migrating macrophages are called wandering macrophages. Okay. Then plasma cells are derived from the B lymphocytes and produce antibodies. Plasma cells are derived from the B lymphocyte and produce antibodies. Next, adipocytes are the specialized cells for the storage of fats. Adipocytes are the specialized cells for the storage of fats. So these are the cells of areolar connective tissue as we discussed in detail in earlier class. Fibroblasts, mast cells, macrophages, plasma cells and adipocytes. Then the fibers. There are about 3 types of fibers we learned already. That let us see how it is given in textbook. The fibers of areolar connective tissue are of 3 types: collagen, reticular, and elastic fiber. Collagen, reticular, and elastic fiber. The collagen and reticular fibers are composed of the protein called collagen, and elastic fibers are made up of a protein called elastin. The collagen fibers, which are white in color, occur in bundles and they are strong and stretch resistant. Collagen fibers are white in color, arranged in bundles, and they are strong and stretch resistant. Excuse me. Reticular fibers. Reticular fibers are thin and form a network and they provide strength and support to certain tissues such as bone marrow. And elastic fibers. Elastic fibers are yellow fibers are branched and they are also found in elastic cartilages and in elastic ligaments. That's the story of 3 types of fibers: collagen, elastin, and reticular. Next, the second type of tissue in the loose connective tissue, that is adipose tissue. These are the adipose tissue is specialized for the fat storage. It consists of large number of adipocytes, what we say fat storing cells, and few fibers. And adipose tissue, which is found beneath the skin, provides thermal insulation. Adipose tissue, which is found beneath the skin, provides thermal insulation. For example, in the blubber of aquatic mammals such as whales and sea cows. It acts as a storage tissue in the hump of camel. It acts as shock absorber in the palms and soles of human. And adipose tissue is of 2 types: white adipose tissue and brown adipose tissue. Adipose tissue is of 2 types: white adipose tissue and brown adipose tissue. Okay. Then excess nutrients in which are not used immediately are converted into fats and stored in this tissue. Excess nutrients which are not used immediately are converted into fats and stored in this tissue. Okay, we have 2 types of tissues now: the white adipose tissue and brown adipose tissue. The white adipose tissue. It is the predominant type in the adults, and the adipocyte has a single large lipid droplet. The single large lipid droplet is called as monolocular lipid droplet, which why that white fat is metabolically less active. White fat is metabolically less active because there is a storage type. Next, brown fat, brown adipose tissue. It is found in the fetuses and infants. It is found in the fetuses and infants. Then adipocyte of the bat has adipocyte of bat, brown adipose tissue has several small lipid droplets we call multilocular lipid droplets, and numerous mitochondria are present here. Then brown fat is metabolically active. See, white fat is metabolically less active. Brown fat is metabolically active. And excuse me, and generates heat. Heat for what? To maintain the body temperature required by the infants. It is comparatively more vascular, hence that is brown in color. That basically that white adipocyte or brown adipocyte, whatever the color is white itself. Then why it appear brown? That means the combination that more vascularization, large number of blood capillaries are present in the brown adipose tissue. That's why it seems to be like the combination of the white and red makes our appearance look like brown. Okay, so that is the story of white adipose tissue and brown adipose tissue. You see here, it is white adipose tissue predominant type in adults. Brown adipose tissue found in the fetuses and infants. Then, white adipose tissue has a single large lipid droplet. Then, the brown adipose tissue has several small lipid droplets. The single large lipid droplet of the white adipose tissue is called monolocular lipid droplet. Then, in case of white adipose tissue, that multiple small lipid droplets are called multilocular lipid droplets. Then, white fat is metabolically less active. Then, brown fat is metabolically very active. That indicates the presence of numerous mitochondria. And it is highly vascular. This is less vascular. That less vascular. White adipose tissue is less vascular, and the brown adipose tissue is more vascular. Okay, so then that's the reason why it appears brown in color. So that's it. That's the story of adipose tissue. At a glance, let's close the radicular tissue also. The radicular tissue. Reticular tissue. It is specialized. It has specialized fibroblast cells called reticular cells. Specialized fibroblast cells called reticular cells. They secrete reticular fiber. You remember, we said the reticular fiber. That means the fibers which can form a network. We can say reticulum. Reticulum means network. That they secrete reticular fibers that form an interconnecting network. In reticular fibers, an interconnecting network will find. It forms the supporting framework of lymphoid organ. Reticular tissue form the supporting framework of lymphoid organs such as bone marrow. Let me show you the bone. In the bone, there is a stuff. What do you say? That stuff has bone marrow. So imagine this is the bone marrow. So what we are saying, this bone marrow is surrounded by supporting framework of lymphoid organ. So now I am talking here that reticular tissue that form the supporting framework of lymphoid organ. So like this, the black one I shown. Okay, in not only the bone marrow, in the spleen, in the lymph nodes, form the reticular lamina of the basement membrane. Did you remember the basement membrane? We said basement membrane composed of two, basal lamina, reticular lamina. This reticular lamina is formed of each basement membrane. We said always basal lamina and radicular lamina. This radicular lamina of the basement membrane is formed by reticular tissue. Formed by reticular tissue. Okay, so this is about the loose connective tissue. Loose connective tissue. Likewise, let us close the dense connective tissue also. What is the basic difference between the loose connective tissue and dense connective tissue? The dense connective tissue. Dense, it's there in the name, dense. That means the fibers and cells are going to be comparatively higher. Talking about the fibers here, the large number of fibers are present here. Large number of fibers. The dense, the word directly indicates the presence of more number of fibers, less cells. Some cells I don't. It has very little ground substance. The same way, let us see about the loose connective tissue. Loose connective tissue, the fibers are comparatively less, and intercellular matrix or ground substance is going to be more in the loose connective tissue. Okay, here fibers are more, matrix is less. That's why we say this connective tissue as dense connective tissue. In that, we have to again that based on the arrangement of fibers, the dense connective tissue is of three types: dense irregular connective tissue, dense regular. Let us see here the dense regular. Let's continue with the dense regular connective tissue. In this type of tissue, the collagen fibers are arranged in the parallel to one another. Regular. What is the meaning of regular? The collagen fibers are arranged in the form of regular bundles like this. So these are the collagen fibers arranged in the form of regular bundles. We say dense regular connective tissue. What is the name dense? Because fibers are in large number, matrix is less. What is regular? Arrangement of the collagen fibers is regular manner. Okay, so we have two examples for that: tendons and ligaments. Tendon. Tendon is the connection between the skeletal muscle to the bone. Muscle, skeletal muscle to the bone. Connection of the skeletal muscle with the bone is done by tendon. And the bone and bone, connection between the bone to the bone is done by ligaments. It's a bone and bone by ligaments. Ligament. Okay. So that's it. Dense regular connective tissue. We have two examples. One is tendon, another is ligament. Tendon is the connection between that muscle, skeletal muscle to the bone, and the ligament is the connection between the bone to the bone. Okay, so that is about the dense regular connective tissue, which arrangement of collagen fibers in parallel and regular manner to one another in bundles, and they have tendons and ligament. Tendon is the connection between the skeletal muscle to the bone, and bone to the bone connection is done by ligaments. Now, let's talk about the dense irregular connective tissue. In case of dense irregular connective tissue, that bundles, as usual, bundles are present here, but the bundles are arranged irregularly like this, like this. So bundles are arranged irregularly. Okay, so I use another color to understand it much better. This is another one bundle, and this is another bundle. That means they get arranged irregularly like this. Okay. So in this type of connective tissue, the bundles of collagen fibers are irregularly arranged. Okay, what is the advantage to be like this irregular arrangement? They are going to be the stretch resistant in all direction, from this direction, from this direction, from this direction. In any direction, they are going to be stretch resistant. They can tolerate the stretch force from all direction. So advantage to be irregular. In the dense irregular connective tissue, bundles of collagen fibers are irregularly arranged. Then what is the advantage? Can tolerate the force from all directions. That's why we can see they are present in the periosteum and endosteum. That is belongs to bone layers. That bone surrounded by periosteum and endosteum. They are made up of irregular, dense fibrous connective tissue. Next, pericardium of the heart. Pericardium, that means heart, the layers around the heart. Next, walls of the heart, heart walls. Joint capsule. Joint capsule, that means the we just talked about that ligament here. That is, we say joint capsule. There also will find irregular dense fibrous connective tissue. And deeper regions of the dermis of skin, deeper region of dermis of skin contain are made up of this type of connective tissue. Irregular connective tissue, let me say once again: periosteum, endosteum, pericardium of heart, and heart walls, joint capsule, and deeper region of the dermis of the skin, which contain or made up of this type of connective tissue. Okay. So then, what is the motto of these particular dense irregular connective tissue? Can tolerate the stretch from all direction. They can tolerate the stretch from all direction. Okay. Next, elastic connective tissue. Elastic connective tissue. What is the meaning of elastic connective tissue? Elastic connective tissue. That means it contains mainly yellow elastic fibers. If they have elastic fiber, definitely they are capable of considerable extension and recoiling. Considerable extension and recoiling. So that this tissue can recoil to its original shape when the forces of stretch are released. So it occurs in the wall of arteries, vocal cords, trachea, bronchi, and elastic ligaments present between the vertebrae. Where do you see this? Arteries, vocal cords, trachea, bronchi, and elastic ligaments present between the vertebrae. In addition to the above mentioned connective tissues, we have some more like mucous connective tissue, which occur as fetal or embryonic connective tissue. During embryonic stages, we have separate connective tissue, that is mucous connective tissue. We don't find that right kind of connective tissue in the adult, but at least a little amount you can see in the umbilical cord at the time of birth. We call it as Wharton's jelly. That means embryonic connective tissue is mucous connective tissue. Then that mucous connective tissue, that when you become the fully grown fetus after 9 months, you don't find at all, but a little amount we will find in umbilical cord in the form of Wharton's jelly. Here the examples play the role. Examples play the role. So let's take a look on the examples. Then after we'll go to the chart, and there we'll check all the examples once again. So we started today from here in the radicular tissue. That in radicular tissue, that supporting framework of lymphoid organs such as bone marrow, spleen, and lymph nodes, and form the reticular lamina of the basement membrane. Okay, so dense regular connective tissue. The tendons and ligaments, with tendons which attaches to the skeletal muscle to bones, and ligaments which attach bones to other bones, are examples of this kind of connective tissue. Dense irregular connective tissue. Here, periosteum, endosteum, and pericardium, heart walls, joint capsule, and deeper region of the dermis of skin are contained or made up of dense irregular connective tissue. Next, when it comes to the elastic connective tissue, it is mainly made up of yellow elastic fiber. Where do you see this? Vocal cords, trachea, bronchi, and elastic ligaments present between the vertebrae. So let's check out that in our chart here. Already we filled some. But let's take a glance look from the beginning. We have to check for connective tissue. As we said, anticoagulant is heparin, vasodilator, bradykinin, vasoconstrictor, serotonin, phagocytic cells or macrophages, then tissue fixed macrophages or histiocyte, wandering macrophages or migrating macrophages, and specialized cells for the storage of the fat, adipocyte, cells which secrete fibers, fibroblast, then white adipose tissue, adult fat, brown adipose tissue, infant fat, monolocular lipid droplet, white adipose tissue, multilocular lipid droplet, brown adipose tissue, and the blubber of aquatic mammals, white adipose tissue, hump of camel, white adipose tissue, the whale, sea cow, camel, white adipose tissue, the framework of lymphoid organs, reticular tissue. We are completed a chart up to here. Now, let us try to answer the remaining attachment of the skeletal muscle to the bone. Muscle to the
Dense regular connective tissue.
tendon. Attachment of the skeletal muscle to the bone, tendon. Okay, tendon. Who is tendon?
Dense regular
connective
tissue.
Regular connective tissue. Dense regular connective tissue. Okay, very good. Attachment of the bone to bone.
Ligament.
What is it?
Dense regular connective tissue.
Connective tissue. And regular connective tissue. Okay, very good. Then let's continue. Reticular lamina of basement membrane.
Reticular connective tissue.
Reticular connective tissue. Then tendons and ligaments.
Dense
regular connective.
Both are belongs to dense regular connective tissue. Dense regular connective tissue. Okay. Next one. Framework of bone marrow, spleen, and lymph nodes.
Reticular connective tissue.
Reticular connective tissue or reticular tissue, no matter. Periosteum of bone.
Dense irregular connective tissue.
Dense irregular connective tissue. Periosteum of bone, dense irregular connective tissue. Wall of artery.
Elastic connective tissue.
Yellow elastic connective tissue. Yellow elastic connective tissue. Endosteum of bone.
Dense irregular connective tissue.
Very good. Dense irregular connective tissue. Dense irregular connective tissue. Endosteum of bone. Okay. Vocal cords.
Elastic connective tissue.
Yeah. Yellow elastic connective tissue. Next. Pericardium of the heart.
Dense irregular
connective tissue.
Dense irregular connective tissue. Dense irregular connective tissue. Next, nasal septal cartilage. Okay, we are not yet went through that cartilage here. I am leaving them. Next, heart valves.
Dense irregular connective tissue.
Dense irregular connective tissue. Next, endoskeleton elastic ligaments. Elastic ligaments present between vertebrae.
Elastic connective tissue.
Yeah, yellow elastic connective tissue. Yellow elastic connective tissue. Next, joint capsule, deeper region of dermis of the skin. Okay, then we'll continue with the remaining. Dense connective tissue of the bronchi.
Elastic connective tissue.
Yeah, yellow elastic connective tissue. When we complete the supporting tissue, the remaining will come for us. Okay, so dense connective tissue of trachea.
Elastic connective tissue.
Yellow elastic connective tissue.
Yellow elastic connective tissue. Next, that's it actually. That in the next session, we are going to complete the remaining total. After the completion of supporting tissue, this worksheet meant for up to supporting tissue. We need to make one more for blood itself. Then up to supporting tissue, that we are completed loose connective tissue and dense connective tissue. Till the time we filled it all. Till the time we filled. Okay. So let's continue with the supporting